Jimmy Kempski is ready to go from, of course, always following him at Jimmy Kempski on Twitter and PhillyVoice.com. He's covering the Philadelphia Eagles. Where, let me ask you, Jimmy, you're a straight shooter from my dealings with you in the past. I get the feeling of watching the Chip Kelly press conference. First off, he is talking a lot. Did he add a day or something? It feels like he's on television every day, this guy. I mean, did he add an extra – did he do that? Did he add an extra day of talking this year?
They feel like that because the first game was on Monday. So he talked, he always talks the day after the game. And then I think he had to talk 3 times during the week. So that first week,
I feel like
Wednesday,
the coordinators used to talk on Thursday. Did they change that up?
I can't recall. I mean, I'm terrible with that stuff. The guy who always knows that stuff is Zach Berman, the Inquirer. But yeah, the coordinators talked this week. They talked. Oh man, all my days are on together now. Tuesday or Wednesday.
They talked Tuesday.
They didn't talk at all because it was a short week.
Okay, my question. The reason I asked that question is, I'm watching these things and I'm feeling very Andy Reid-ish as I'm watching them. Like, he's done. He just walks the heck out of there. He's not acknowledging anybody. His head is down. He's answering questions, and he's looking at you like, really? You just asked me that question? Are you kidding me? I feel like there's already some built-up, like, tension going on at 0-2. I couldn't imagine what will happen, if they get to 0-3. But are you feeling that he's already annoyed 2 games in?
Earlier in the week, I thought he was okay. In fact, I thought he pretty much owned up to them, just looking terrible, particularly in the Cowboys game. The Week 1 game was a little bit of a different story because they did have the second half where they at least put a few drives together. But against the Cowboys, I mean, they just did nothing until there was garbage time. So I thought he was pretty contrite in his dealings with the media early in the week. I didn't really notice that it was overly contentious as the week kind of went on here. He's always going to give kind of smart-ass remarks back to reporters that ask dumb questions. That's always been the case, whether he's in a good mood or a bad mood or whatever. But I've seen him in bad moods after wins, and I've seen him in good moods after, maybe not necessarily good moods after losses, but, good moods when you're kind of not expecting it. So it's kind of a mixed bag on what you're going to get with him.
Well, Jimmy, and the reason I don't think locally as much that his name, hot seat or anything like that, but, you've heard some people already say his name mentioned if they go to 0-3, and obviously early in his tenure when college jobs opened up, I felt like he got past that, but it looks like, Texas and Miami and maybe U.S., there's going to be college jobs that are opening, and if this season doesn't go the way that people thought, I mean, does he get to the point where he says, I just don't need this? I mean, do you think it can get down that road? I have heard some national people say that he could be on the hot seat if this thing doesn't go his way, since he handpicked this team.
No, I've heard that he likes the NFL. I don't think he has any intention of leaving the NFL if it's up to him. Whether it's up to him a year or 2 or whenever down the line, if they're just not all that successful, then, he may not have a choice. But I've heard that he likes the NFL a lot more than he likes college, and I don't know the exact reason why, but my guess would be that I would assume he's not a big fan of recruiting. I have to imagine he does not like dealing with the boosters in any way. So for him to go back to college on his own volition would be an enormous surprise to me. I don't think he's going anywhere, and I don't think he's on the hot seat or anything like that. I mean, we're talking about a guy that just this offseason was given full control of the team. So for him to go from getting full control of the team from the owner to being on the hot seat after 2 losses, bad as those losses may have been, he's not going anywhere. And I think he's got, they can have a horrible season this year. He's not going to go anywhere. He could have a horrible season next year, and maybe we'll talk then. But I don't think his seat is hot at all right now. And I think he's going to be the Eagles coach for he's certainly going to get a chance to turn the question, but he's not going to be fired at any time. No way during the season, and probably not after.
No, and I agree with that. Jimmy Kempski here, PhillyVoice.com, always does a great job covering the Eagles. And Murray, he tweaked his hamstring. He didn't practice today. Do you have any indication? Have you seen him around? I know that he and Matthews don't like to chat too much, but do you get a feeling if Murray's going to play on Sunday?
I don't know. He got an MRI, which is somewhat of an indication that it's, well, obviously if you got an MRI, it was serious enough where he got an MRI, So it's not.
Which, by the way, I wouldn't wish upon my worst enemy. Those things are terrible to get. They're awful.
If you're claustrophobic, you do not want to have to go on that MRI machine.
No.
But yeah, so I don't know. He may go. I mean, it's we're getting toward the end of the week here, so for him to have tweaked it on Wednesday, I believe it was, and then we're only 4 days away from Sunday's only 4 days away from Wednesday, so it's I really couldn't tell you if he's going to play or not. They obviously said that Kiko's not going to go, but Murray and Kendricks may go. So again, I don't have any inside information there other than what we were told today. If he goes, he goes. If not, then that's how they have depth.
Yeah, and the Kiko thing's interesting because Davis said Tuesday he was out. Then yesterday Kelly said, well, maybe. And then today Kelly was like, well, he's not going to play. You've heard that he's done for the year. You've heard other people say 2 to 4 weeks. Is there any definitive lean on where Kiko Alonso could be? Is this on him? Is he making the decision like, hey, I'm going to try to do this? Or if I get surgery, I'm done? I mean, where do you think he is?
Yeah, and, you mentioned earlier Andy Reid earlier. While Andy Reid's press conferences were extraordinarily boring at times, he was at least forthcoming with injury news, whereas Kelly is not. And I think the difference between when you see Billy Davis answering a question and when Chip Kelly answers a question is Billy Davis just telling you what he knows. Chip Kelly isn't. So, if Billy Davis says something, then that's the guy who I would take his word for. Typically, when you have conflicting reports on a player's health, and this is just generally speaking, I'm not specifically speaking about Kiko or any other player, but just generally speaking, when you have conflicting reports, somebody's getting information from the medical side, and then other people are getting information from the team side. And typically the team side is going to be far more optimistic about when they're going to return than the medical side, because the team side wants them to come back earlier than the medical side, of course. So, I mean, the conflicting report, and again, I'm not speaking about anything specifically here, but that's just kind of the way that I've seen it as we've gone along here. But again, I really have no idea whether Murray or Kendricks or whoever is going to play this week, and I have no idea when Kiko is going to return either.
And the other question I want to ask you, Jimmy, is regarding Cedric Thornton, who I would imagine is out. What the intentions are, because that's an area where they don't have a lot of depth, and we haven't seen a lot of the reserves. What would be the options to play with Cedric Thornton out?
Well, they like Taylor Hart more this year than they did last year, of course, and you can tell that obviously because Hart is playing, and he's active, whereas he was not active at all last year, and instead Brandon Bear has been inactive the first 2 games of the season here. So if Thornton can't play, then Bear will be active. Hart may start, and of course they have Vinny Kerry there, who's not necessarily your prototypical 3-4 defensive end, and he probably won't be. You're not going to see him in there on early downs, on traditional running downs. You'll see him more, he'll probably stay in his more traditional, obvious passing down role where he gets on the field to get after the passer. So I think you'll just see Taylor Hart fill in, and I do think that's a downgrade. I think what Cedric Thornton does is kind of valuable especially for what they like to do. The Eagles, first and foremost, like to shut down the run on defense, take care of that first, and there's been an emphasis, of course, this year on keeping everything in front of them in the passing game as well. But Cedric Thornton does a really good job in that run game, so that'll be a test for Taylor Hart this week against the Jets team, who has traditionally liked to run the ball a lot. So he'll be part of that trio of Fletcher Cox and Benny Logan, who are both really good flyers. So at least it's Cedric Thornton. While he is a good player, at least it's not Fletcher Cox or Benny Logan, the 2 guys who really have stepped up so far this year.
Yeah, and we know Jordan Hicks is going to get a lot of time. What'd you think of him? I know third-round pick. We didn't see a lot of him or hear a lot about him in the preseason. I know Chip talked briefly about him today, and he seemed like a three-down backer when they got him, and he's going to get thrust right into the mix. So what'd you think of Hicks?
Yeah, you're right. He was a little bit of an afterthought because they had so much depth at inside linebacker with Kiko and Demarco and Kendricks, and I really liked what I saw of him against Dallas. In fact, I did a film breakdown of him, looking at him in coverage against the run and as a blitzer. He only had the one opportunity where as a blitzer, and you saw what happened there where he sacked Romo, knocked him out for at least 8 weeks, and forced a fumble.
MVP, right?
Run, there was one play where he was on the opposite side of the formation, and they ran an outside run to the right, and he tracked. First of all, he sidestepped an offensive lineman. The offensive lineman fell on his face right in front of him. Got around him, sprinted to the sideline, and made a really nice hit on the sideline on, I think it was Joseph Randall. And it was just a really impressive play to see the kind of speed that he had, again, from the opposite side of the formation, running down the line and making a play on the running back. The game before, it wasn't a play that really stood out like that when you're watching the game. But when you just zero in on what he did on that play, it was really impressive. And then in coverage, he gave it that really long play to Lance Dunbar, where they're basically asking him to be a cornerback. And Dunbar is kind of like a Sproles-y type player in that he has wide receiver type skills. So they're basically asking him to be a cornerback on that play, which is any linebacker is going to fail in that situation. They gave up that long play, but otherwise I thought he was very good. He was covering Dunbar. They had Dunbar lined up in the slot on a number of occasions, and he did a very nice job covering him man-to-man, one-on-one. And really, it's a situation where I don't think they should have been putting him in that situation where he's covering a good receiving running back man-to-man in the slot. And I thought he did a very good job for the most part. That one deep ball aside. So from what I saw from him, for a rookie coming in there and having to fill in the second half of a divisional game like that and playing the way that he did was very encouraging.
All right, he's Jimmy Kempski at Jimmy Kempski. PhillyVoice.com's got a lot. By the way, the Tecmo Bowl tweet brought me back a long way. That was a good one. The Chip Kelly playbook right there. Always a good follow on Twitter if you like stick figures. Jimmy Kempski on Twitter. Thanks, bud.
All right, Mike. Appreciate it.